What's up, y'all? Doing another little sharpening video here with the TSProf Kadet Pro. Got another video coming out with this knife. This is the Kizer Begleiter. Buddy of mine snapped the tip off of it. I kind of fixed it a little bit with the Dremel, evened it out, but it's still got a really rough edge. No doubt about it. I mean, you can see the edge, it's especially from the Dremel taking so much metal off on the tip, kind of ruined the edge of it. So I'm gonna put a whole new edge profile on here, redo the whole thing. So figured I'd film that from beginning to end. It's got N690 steel on it. See what kind of edge this thing takes. Go ahead and loosen up the jaws here on this TSProf. And one thing about this one is you want to, I guess just like any other fixed angle sharpening system, you want to make sure that the center of the cutting edge is centered up as good as you can with the with where the stone is going to be sliding at. So with this one, where is my Allen wrench? The Allen wrench somewhere around here. There it is. Alright. So TSProf, if you watch some of my other videos, you gotta have the Allen wrench to tighten down on the jaws. Put that first one just snug, just so it holds it in there. Second one, this one, kind of want to make them as close together as possible. I don't have that. They do have an attachment that kind of some brackets that you can put on here that makes these two jaws slide all the way together, and they have another attachment that's just a single jaw, but I don't have those attachments, so I'm just kind of working with the base system here, which is still pretty good. It's just harder to do a knife where you got like a more narrow blade, I guess would be the best way to describe it. So I'm going to lock that in there nice and tight. Yeah, alright, so that's good. Got it good and secure. Alright, so I can access every end of it. Now, one thing you want to make sure you're not doing on this thing, and it comes pretty close to it on this one, is you want to make sure when you're sharpening, going back and forth, you're not grinding the end of your jaws. So, being as how that's so close, what I'm going to do is loosen this up just a little bit. Loosen this one up just a little bit. Let's see if I can move this any farther out, which with the way that the thumb stud is on this one in particular, it's kind of hard, but just trying to get it a little bit farther out to where this is far enough away from that where that slide bar won't contact it whenever you're sharpening, so I don't sharpen the jaws inadvertently. And you can raise it, you can pick it up and check it just to make sure, which this looks like it's far enough out to where it's not contacting it right now, so that's good. Alright, so from the beginning, when you're setting your angle on this one, you don't have to do the Sharpie thing with the edge bevel, because I'm totally putting a whole new angle on here. I'm gonna put a 17-degree angle on it, skint back, my own personal edge. By the time this is done, I'm gonna try to make sure this thing's a laser beam. Right now you can't even hardly cut butter with this thing, but I'm hoping after I'm done with it, be able to slice through some paper really good and perform everyday tasks pretty good with it. Alright, so what I did was I put my this is the KME stone I actually am putting on here, and that's one good thing about the TSProf is you can adjust this back and forth. This is a 4-inch stone from the KME, the Beast 50 grit. It's the lowest grit I have. I'm gonna be taking some serious metal off of here, so I don't really want to waste time with a smaller grit, a lower grit, you know, a more fine grit. So to make sure I've got the angle right before I start sharpening on it, first thing I'm gonna do, angle finder here, put it center with that, center with the blade, zero it out. It's at 0 right now. Put it right there. This is showing 19. Right now I got a 19.4 degree angle. So what I'm gonna do, since I want it at 17, you can adjust this by turning that knob, loosening it up. I'm gonna make this go up. Now it's sitting at 14, 15, 16, 16.6. 17. Alright. Now that's exactly where I want it, so I'm going to tighten that down really good. Now that's what's holding the angle. And whenever we go back to the KME stones, I mean the TSProf stones, since they're thinner than the KME stones by a decent little amount, I'm going to redo the angle with the angle finder whenever I swap back to them, just to make sure I'm maintaining that same angle. Alright, so got the blade set right, clamped in there, secured. I'm going to put a little bit of lapping fluid on it, try to avoid some scuffs on the coating there. Alright, and start going back and forth. Now with this one, the edge is obviously really damaged, so it's going to take a while of going back and forth to get that down to where I want it. Now I'm going to put the stop on here. This little thing at the end, you can slide it down. Put that right there, that way I'll quit sliding off on the edge. Normally you would try not to spend so much time on the very end of it whenever you're sharpening on the tip. Try not to spend as much time in one area at all, really. But being as how this one I did use the Dremel with it on that tip from here back pretty much, I used the Dremel to take away metal so I could even it out and give the knife a tip again. You definitely are going to have to take some more metal off from the belly up than you would the rest of the knife. Now you can still make sure you get as many passes as you can on the rest of the knife. Which is hard to do whenever you're focusing on taking all that metal off on one side. But you do have to try to maintain a little bit of equality as far as how much you go over with the stone. Because if you take too much off, like on here, or if you take too much off on here and not enough on here, you're going to see that in the end with the finished product. See, that kind of fell out of there. Maybe whenever I situated that holder, I didn't put it all the way in. Probably should have slid that down a little more. Matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and do that right now. Loosen off of this. I wanted to take that out and use the other side. So what I got going on here is this little set screw is actually rounded off a little bit, so it's making it hard to adjust it up and down. Let's see if I got another Allen wrench. Or actually that's a Torx head. Yeah, okay. It's actually a T6 Torx bit. Ironically enough, I always complain about having problems with T6s stripping out. Alright, so get my stone, put it back in the holder. I thought about editing this part out, you know, because I mean, I definitely wasn't expecting all this to happen, but at the same time, I'm probably gonna end up just keeping it in, just because it's a good, you know, it's a good kind of instructional thing for people to look at. I think, you know, I mean, you don't want to, if you're watching a video where I'm doing it perfectly and it's got parts where I messed up cut out, you know, it's not going to show me fixing the problem. So I'm sure if you guys are watching this, you kind of, maybe somebody, you know, has had that issue before, I don't know. But all I did was, instead of using the one that came with it, the little Allen wrench that came with it, I used this one that my own personal one that's not stripped out, and it worked just fine. So anyway, back to the sharpening. Yeah, it's not really holding it as well as it does the thinner TSProf stones, but I am pressing down a lot harder than I normally do with this one, just because I'm trying to take more metal off. Definitely got a heck of a burr on that side, so I'm going to flip it over. See what I got to work with over here. And remember, you got to put just as much, take just as much metal off on each side. That's kind of hard to do sometimes. It's kind of hard to remember how much metal you took off on one side. I like to count the passes while I'm doing it, just to try to get a roundabout number. But you can always look at it at the end and kind of tell just by eyeballing it whether you got a similar angle, similar bevel on one side as you do the other. But normally it's not as hard. This edge in particular has been a bit of a challenge, just because of the fact that I use the Dremel to even it out from the belly up. So took away a lot of metal and essentially started over with a brand new edge from the belly up. And try to kind of remember while you're doing this that your first highest grit angle or lowest grit angle, your lowest grit stone, that's pretty much going to set the tone for what the rest of your edge is going to be. You know, you take the most metal off on your first one, and that is essentially the sharpening part of the knife, sharpening the knife. You know, whenever you whenever you go up, you're more or less honing. The higher the grit you go, the less metal you're taking off. So sometimes your first one will take a lot longer than the rest of them combined, and that's okay. You know, I mean, it takes however long it takes. So I'm looking at it right now, and I can pretty much tell, pretty obvious to me, that I need to take off more metal on this side just because of the fact that the bevel is a lot wider on the other side than it is on this side. And you really don't have to count the strokes. You don't have to count how many times you go over it. If you're good enough at eyeballing it and looking at it and being able to tell, okay, well, I've taken off just as much metal on that side as I did this side, then that's good enough. This is essentially a lot more towards what you're supposed to be doing, is these sweeping passes, especially when you got a drop point that's got a belly that goes up like that, because you're trying not to round that tip off, right? You get more metal off when you go up and down like this. You take more metal off, but you also have more of a risk of sliding off of here like that and rounding the tip off, and that's something that you don't want to do, because if you round the tip off, you're pretty much gonna have to start over. You know, if you want a knife with a sharp tip on it, you know. So these sweeping passes like this, that kind of gives you a little more safety with you're not as likely to round that tip off. You can see all the metal. That's all the metal I've taken off. Pretty good bit. Take a look at it on the other side. Flip it over. Excuse me. So looking at it here, it looks fairly even from one side to the next. This has definitely got a good burr going on all the way down. So what I'm going to do is go back to my TSProf stones now and progress my grit. So I'm going to do my grit progression. All right, now that, even though I sped through it with the fast forward, was probably one of the worst experiences I've had sharpening. Everything went wrong. This little thing came out. I had to put this back in and tighten up on that set screw right there that holds that up and down. Make sure that was tight, recheck my angle, just all kinds of stuff that usually doesn't happen, but if you do it enough it will. Now I'm just going to go over it lightly with a strop on each side just to take any remaining metal that might be on there off. I already preloaded this little strop with the I think it's 0.5 micron CBM emulsion. Seems pretty sticky sharp. Give it a try with the paper here, see how it does. Oh yeah, that's nice. Definitely nice. Well worth it. Well worth the trouble there, for sure. Nice. I was trying to slowing down whenever I'm cutting the paper to work from the belly up to the tip, just to make sure that that I got that set right, and looks like it's set right to me. It's slicing pretty good. Oh yeah, if it cuts phone book paper, then that's perfectly good enough for me. Yep, awesome. Whew. That was probably the worst sharpening experience I've ever had with this TSProf Kadet Pro. Still a great sharpening system and everything. It's just like it's one of those times where everything was going wrong. Never had so many issues from the from initially. I think the first thing before I'd started doing the time lapse was this. That little set screw got stripped out, so that made it harder to adjust that up and down, you know, which in turn caused the smaller 4-inch, well, the smaller 4-inch stone to keep falling out while I was trying to reprofile it. That was one thing. And then once I finally got it kind of reprofiled and started my grip progression, when I began doing the time lapse, this little thing right here that's set that holds this up and down in place, I don't know if it's just from wear, just because I've used it so much, or if I actually didn't tighten it up enough last time. But whatever it was loose, so this popped up, which, you know, caused the slide bar to come out. So I had to recheck my angle, make sure everything was zeroed out and all that stuff again. So yeah, that was definitely an experience. But by the time I do another sharpening video with the TSProf, hopefully I'll have all those issues ironed out for the most part. If nothing else, it was a pretty good learning experience for me anyway. I don't know if anybody will watch it or not, but yeah, I thought it was definitely eye-opening in a couple of different ways. But we got to our goal. We got the knife reprofiled, 17-degree skint back, beautiful mirror edge on this thing, and it is slicing like nobody's business with a brand new tip on it as well. So even through all the obstacles we encountered, still worth it to get the knife functioning just like it should be. So that's it for today. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate your patience, and hopefully you got something out of it. You know, I definitely learned a few things from it. So anyway, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel. If you are, I appreciate it. This is the Knight's Edge, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.